Welcome to the Tides of War Gettysburg gameplay video. Here we are at Gettysburg, and you see a large map of the battlefield. Over to the left, we have the cards, the combat results table, the odds table, and a set of the rules. Here is Gettysburg, an obvious crossroads. Barreling down on Chambersburg Pike are the Confederates, and the Federals are defending along McPherson Ridge. Reinforcements are coming up along Taneytown Road and the Baltimore Pike. The Confederates go first, and in doing so, they draw a card. This first card is an interdiction card. 3 of those, and the Confederates will interdict the Federal supply line. So we'll lay that aside. The Confederates now commence their move. You'll notice that the artillery is in a defilade position behind the hill, which means the Federal artillery cannot reach them even though they are in range. Now in the Confederate move, they move their artillery up onto the ridge line to engage the Federal artillery. The Confederate infantry is following up. They can move 1 extra move on the road, as all units can, and they can move 2 units off. There they go through the defilade position again, and up onto the ridge because they were protected from the Federal artillery. Additional units continue to move over to the right. It is an obvious attempt for the Confederates to outflank the Federal left. Meanwhile, on the Confederate left, they have a preponderance of force there as well, and they're moving to the attack. The Federals only have 2 brigades plus a cavalry brigade, and the cavalry unit only has a 1 combat hex zone, and it can't reach the Confederates. It is now the Federal turn to retreat or reinforce, and you'll notice that they're pulling back on the right flank, and out of the center they're pulling 1 unit out. 1 brigade is pulling out of the line. Clearly he's headed over to the right where they need help, and the left flank brigades close up to the center. Obviously, the Federals are greatly outnumbered. The reinforcements also make their 1 move. At this point, combat is about to commence, but it's only an artillery duel. That's all that is in range. And the Confederates have 9 combat factors against the Federal 5. Those we can consult the odds tables or just calculate that that's a 2 to 1. And the hills have no effect on them. They're both on the high ground in any event. The roll of the dice will take place, and the combat results table will be consulted under counter battery fire. Counter battery fire is the lowest one on there. This is artillery versus artillery. There's 3 separate areas on the combat results table. The dice have been rolled, and there's a 5. The result is that the defense loses 1, and you can see that the Federal artillery has been rotated 1 combat factor down. Now the Confederates commence their charge portion of the move, and they're moving to the attack on the Federal right flank, and they will do so also on the Federal left flank. It is an attempt at a double envelopment, with the artillery keeping the Federal center busy. The question is whether or not the Federals can hang on before reinforcements get there. And there are many more reinforcements coming other than the few you saw coming up Taneytown Road and Baltimore Pike. The odds table is now consulted again, and the odds table breaks down what these various attacks are. We have a 8 to 5, but 5 of the Federals are on high ground, so they double to 10. So it's 8 to 10 or 1 to 1. On the other side, it's going to be 6 to 8. The Confederates roll the dice. It's a 3, and both sides lose 1 combat factor, and you can see that they have been rotated accordingly. Now on the left flank we have the 6 to 8 odds, and we have the 8 to 8 odds. And here, both sides lose 1 combat factor on the 6 to 8 in the center, and the attacker loses 1 combat factor on the left flank. The Federals have the choice now of retreating or staying. If they stay, they're not obligated to attack because it's really all part of the same turn, and they can await another attack, or they can pull out. If they retreat 2 hexes, they have to give up 1 combat factor for each unit that does it. If they just retreat 1 hex, there's no problem. Reinforcements are being brought in up the Emmitsburg Road, as well as Tawnytown Road, as well as Baltimore Pike, and the Federals draw their first card, which is General Gordon, which is a Confederate. So that doesn't do the Federals any good, except it deprives the Confederates of the card.